Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm one of your hosts, Jimmy Gasparo. I have a returning guest, which I've been saying a lot on this podcast. I love when guests come back to the podcast so we can talk about more stuff. And it always makes me feel like they had a nice time the first time. Also, I've been lucky enough to meet this individual in person at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. And I am just such a huge fan. We're going to talk about comic books, but really we're going to talk about board games today. He is
Ooh.
from Off the Page Games, and they have a new Kickstarter. We're going to talk all about it, and maybe he'll be able to give us a little tease of some of the other projects that I know they have coming out. But please welcome back to the podcast, Jay Cormier. Jay, how are you doing today?
Great. I mean, how else can a publisher be, 3 days before their Kickstarter launches?
Yeah, just no nerves,
No.
just doing okay. For listeners who may not have listened to the last time that you were on,
Mm,
so with Off the
sure.
Page Games, you take comic books, you turn those properties into board games. I have played Harrow County, which is a fantastic comic book. Cullen Bunn, Tyler Crook. I absolutely love the game. I'm a huge fan of it. Dan Nixon and I, who covers board game stuff for Comic Book Yeti and has gone to PAX Unplugged for a bunch of years now. He's like, the guy that has all the games and introduced me to it. The other huge surprise for me was the game Mind Management. And I had never first time I ever played a hidden movement game, and I was blown away by it. Love
Yay.
love the mechanics of it. It was uh, our friend Kevin on one side, and so it was Kevin and I kind of playing together, and Dan on the other side. And I just hadn't played anything like that before, and it was so much fun. Loved all the artwork. I was lucky enough in the episode where a recent podcast episode where I interviewed Matt Kent about
Ooh.
stuff he had coming out, and then Matt and I got to talk about the game and like kind of his role in the development of it.
Ooh.
And yeah,
Without him, Off the Page Games wouldn't exist.
really,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, we had signed Mind Management to another publisher, and so we were like sitting back, waiting for that sweet, sweet board game money to come rolling in. And it didn't because that company went under. They filed for bankruptcy and went under. So we're like, oh shoot. So we met and we're like, well, what do we do now? Who are we gonna pitch it to? Do you remember who else liked the game that we could pitch it to? And it was Matt is like, why don't we just do it ourselves? He's like, I'll do all the art. I got graphic design background. I'll do that too. And you publish it. And so I'm like, I guess I'm a publisher now.
wow. But it is listeners, if you haven't checked it out yet, it really is a lot of fun, and even it's a great way if you haven't read the comic yet to get into the comic, or vice versa. If you're a fan of the comic, the game is a lot of fun. It's
It's
some of
an
the most
interesting
fun
one
I've
because
had.
it took us 5 years to find that game because we kept creating other types of games and testing them. And while they had the elements of the mind management comic book in the game, the locations, the characters, the powers, it didn't feel like a mind management game. It felt like a ripoff of Pandemic or something, or just moving pieces around a board, and it didn't feel like mind management. And so, what's interesting about mind management game is that the feeling, the experience you get playing it isn't isn't picking up from any specific story point in the comic, but it feels like you're playing a mind management comic. You know what I mean? Like the
Oh
emotion
yeah,
you have.
I know exactly. Yeah, what you mean. Not necessarily that it's not like a um it's not like a playthrough video game. If you have a property and you're like, "Oh,
Yes.
I am the character. I have now been inserted into the comic book storyline, and I am
Yes.
playing through as that character."
And I would
But
say
it does
similar to Harrow County is the same thing. In Harrow County, there's no one story where, Emmy and her friends battle all of the family or like they have skirmishes here and there, but it's not like that's not what the whole story is about. But again, it feels like the comic. And then that, I think, juxtaposes a bit with Core of Discovery, our third game, which we can get into. But in that one, it really does actually follow the storyline. There are 6 chapters, and each chapter is literally one of the graphic novels following the, Flora, the Fauna, the Insecta, all of the storylines, and it actually does follow it. So sometimes we can adhere more to the plot beats of a comic, and sometimes we're more going for the vibe and the experience of the comic.
And that's what I really like about the stuff that you do for off the page games. And it's that you're not just taking a comic book property and saying, "All right, we have these game mechanics. Let's just do the art and let's do this." You're really either finding a comic book property and figuring out a game that will work to serve the comic book property and fans of it well, or you're taking a game that you are already developing and looking for the right comic book to then pair with that type of game.
Yeah,
And it allows for a really different, experience. It's not like, oh, we've taken Monopoly and we've just slapped Star Wars stuff into it.
totally.
You really have a
Totally.
different game experience for every comic book, and the time, the care, and attention in the artwork really makes for like a wonderful playing experience.
Yeah, our goal is to make it such that people who've never read the comic can have a great time with this game because it's a great game is the goal is like this, and then maybe they learn like there's a comic based on this, and then they're excited like I want to read that. And then also for the fans of the comic, when they play the game, they're like, yes, of course, yes, this is exactly the comic. I'm playing the comic. This is great.
Yeah. And so the new Kickstarter that you have is for Core of Discovery, which is based off of a Manifest Destiny, which is an image for anyone that doesn't know. Manifest Destiny is a comic book. It's Image Comics. It's Chris Dingus, I believe, and Matthew Roberts. It is basically a take on uh, Lewis and Clark and their expedition with Sacagawea, traveling west, but there are crazy monsters
Yeah,
and they run into all sorts of trouble. I love Manifest Destiny. I
so
think it's a
good.
great comic. And now you've created a Core of Discovery. And can you just tell a little bit before we get into the Kickstarter for the new edition and
Yeah.
duo, like the basic concept of the Core of Discovery game?
Yeah, so to clarify for those that aren't familiar, we did a Kickstarter 2 years ago for this game, and it was released last year. And so the game's been out for a whole year now, and you can go and get it in a store, for example, now. And the game is such that it has this really cool contraption where you slide a map into this contraption, and it has 49, a 7x7 grid, 49 holes, and you fill them all up with these dual layered tokens that kind of nest in the holes, and they sit in these holes. And you do that by having a concealer page in first, so you don't see the map that you're sliding in, and then you slide the concealer page out. And now you're literally exploring America. You're literally exploring. You're like, what's under here? What's under here? But you're not kind of going willy-nilly and just randomly just going wherever you want. Every single resource has a logic rule of where it exists. Wood is always orthogonally adjacent to water, but there's only one wood in every row and column. So once you find a wood, you know there's no more wood in that row and column. And rocks are all connected, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these rules. And so you have these challenge cards that are randomly flipped up that need you to find and pay certain resources to overcome these challenges. And if you pass them, good things happens. And if you fail them, bad things happen, like losing water. And if you lose too much water, you die. And it's a cooperative game, so you would all lose the game. And all of that is just to survive. And that's true for every chapter. Each chapter has its own objective. The core game, if you buy it in a store, it comes with 2 chapters, the Fauna and the Flora, which if you read the comic, you're like, yeah, that's the 2 names of the first 2 graphic novels. And
Yeah.
each of those has different objectives you're trying to do. Like in Fauna, you're trying to kill 3 Minotaurs. And in Flora, you try to defeat this giant plant. And there's all these Flora zombies that are all over the board that you have to deal with. And the feels very different. And then there's 4 expansions available for the game, like Insecta, where you're trying to first distract this frog-like Ranidae creature in the water so that you can shuttle resources back to your boat because you need to create insecticide to kill all the insects that are on the board. And then in the diameter, there's this winged headless monster that flies around and steals other people's heads and puts it on them. And you're trying to line up your crew and trying to shoot them while you're trying to still do all these other deduction things. Maldonado has a traitor element, so now the game is not just cooperative, but somebody could be the traitor and having Maldonado whisper in his ear, having him do different things. And then the final expansion is Fog, and in Fog, all of the rules are mixed up. So you've been playing the game for a long time, and wood is always next to water. Well, now you don't know something's next to water, but you know what it is. So you have all the rules are mixed up, and you have to actually determine what the rules are.
Right, and so what I like about the game is, it is cooperative, and I love the nature of a cooperative game because, I mean, I've certainly played plenty of, worker placement games and things along those lines where you're just trying to gather resources and whoever has the most victory points at the end, and I've played a bunch of those games. I've had, like, a ton of fun with all of those. I really am finding that I have I love cooperative games, though. I love kind of, like, working together, so it's, like, us against the game. I
Mhm.
really enjoy that experience. And, yeah, so you're kind of the things that I like that really remind me of Manifest Destiny other than the artwork, and I think you did work with the artist Matthew Roberts,
A
who
little bit. He's just
yeah.
in demand, I guess, and very busy. And so we were able to leverage a lot of the art from the comic, and he did do a brand new cover for us for the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But it definitely has the feel of the Manifest Destiny comic. And yeah, when you think about like what are we really talking about with the comic here? It's this alternate history, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea exploring, and they don't really know what they're going to find around every turn. And so
They
you kind of take
you learn very quickly in the comic that the President Jefferson knows there's monsters out there and has asked them to get rid of all the monsters.
yeah, but I think like there's moments of it where at least as a reader, some of the things they find are still like very surprising.
Very creative, yes.
Yeah, and so you've taken that and, you're taking the cards that you get, so you're creating your own grid, you're creating the map, you're basically figuring out the rules, as you go, and the main purpose of the game cooperatively is really you're trying to figure out where the fort is and making sure you're
Sure.
obeying all of the rules to get to
In
the
Fauna,
fort.
yeah.
Yeah, in Fauna, like just talking
The
about in terms
first
of
the first chapter, yeah.
the first chapter. Yeah, and there's monsters and,
Yeah, it's cool.
I just think it's a really cool game. It really is very reminiscent of the comic book, and, the card art is great, all of the different, the not the placement cards, but the I guess, like, there's the level up challenge cards,
Mhm.
for and the hazard cards, like,
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's
lot of
great.
those are really fun as well. So now, as we're recording this, we're a few days away from the Kickstarter and I'll have a link in the show notes, as I always do, listeners, so you can, follow Off the Page Games, and you can go right to check out the Core of Discovery, the second
Thank you.
edition, and also Duo. So
Yeah,
what's changed in terms of
sure.
this second edition, and then we'll talk about Duo.
Yeah, new game. So we still had a lot of demand for the Core Discovery Ultimate, and we were all sold out of that because that was a Kickstarter exclusive. And then we had a few left over on our website, and then people keep asking, "Do you have any more? Where can I get some?" I'm like, "Oh, we don't have any more." And so it led me to thinking, like, can we do another Kickstarter for this? Like, are people interested in that we can run another Kickstarter for this? And then we finally, it started popping up on I think over 20 top 10 lists for the year from different content creators around the world. So we're like, wow, yeah, this is pretty good. So maybe we'll do it. So while we're doing that, we're like, well, there's a lot of things we want to tweak. And so maybe we'll call this a second edition because we're like, it's not just a reprint. We're like kind of fixing some things. The number one was the storage system. The storage system in the Ultimate Edition conceptually was a really cool idea, but the manufacturer late in the game that we partnered with couldn't do what we had requested. And it was so late in the game that we either had to redesign the whole thing, start from scratch, and maybe in the hindsight I should have, but it would have delayed it 3 more months of delivery. So that was a decision we had to make, and we delivered, and it was not a good solution. I didn't like the solution that it's a fine thing. It's actually really good storage if you only ever store your boxes like flat down. But if you ever stand them up, then it's a terrible solution. Things start falling out of their holes and stuff like that. So we're totally redesigning that. And another cool thing that we're doing with the game is that if you play the game, let's say you play Fauna, and now you want to go and play Insecta. Well, you have to go through the challenge cards and get rid of all the Fauna specific challenge cards, and then go get the Insecta ones, put them in and shuffle them up. And then same with the Destiny cards. You got to pull out the Fauna one and put them in, like, and there's all this like minutia of like setup, which is weird. So we're actually in this new version duplicating all those cards. So that if you play Insecta, it has all the cards you need. So there's no sorting and unsorting needed. And then a few other quality of life improvements. If you play the game, like the shelter has a domed roof on it, but sometimes you need to put something on top of it, like a monster or a resource on it, and it's like domed. So we're like, okay, let's have a flat shelter top. So small little bonuses,
Yeah.
benefits like that we're tweaking. And then to make sure that people with first edition don't feel left out, because that could be very frustrating, we're offering two different fix-it packs. A card fix-it pack if you want all the duplicated cards so that you too can have that experience. You can actually get that for free if you back the original Ultimate First Edition, and you're getting this Core Discovery Duo, which we'll talk about in a minute. So you can get that free, or you can buy it if you don't want to get Duo for it's like, and very nominal, like $5 or something. And then there's
okay. Yeah, that's great.
yeah. And then there's another fix-it pack that lets you get the new storage system and all the new shelter and all the new little token things that we've changed. You can get that as well, including the new rule book. We've definitely been raked over the coals, and rightfully so, for not a great rule book. The original Core Discovery had a lot of things left to be desired, and we're changing a lot of that. In fact, there used to be a training mission in it, and we're taking that out entirely. We were spending so much time trying to fix and answer and solve and patch the training mission, and it just, in hindsight, is like, well, it's just adding too much. It's like a whole new mode you have to play and you have to learn before playing the real game, and it's like, it's not worth it. It wasn't worth the what we're doing. So that's all gone. And I think those are the biggest improvements.
Okay. Before we talk about Duo, I wanted to ask in terms of like when you have a game and you're like, okay, I think we got it, and we're ready to we do the Kickstarter, we're ready to ship it out. But in terms of like some of the tweaks, or you said you were raked over the coals for the rule book. Is it because you're still like working on the game to try and make it the best it is afterwards, or like
No.
is it like social media, like Board Game Geek? Like, how are you getting that feedback from
Oh yeah, just tons of
customers?
the question on Board Game Geek is like, what does it mean in the rule book when you say this? And you're like,
Oh,
oh yeah,
okay.
we never noticed that. So it's because we didn't do what's called like a rules test, where we give the game and the rules to somebody to test it. We had hired a rules editor to go through it, and so I thought I did my due diligence by hiring a rules editor, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, look, I will say that I have played games where I know for a fact they did like a rules not any of your guys' games, but other ones where I know for a fact that they did like a rules test and had a rules editor, and there are still times that
Yeah.
me and Dan have questions and go on a site like Board Game Geek, and it's like,
Yes.
yeah, I got this card and the rules say this, but can I do that? And so that stuff, it does happen, but it is nice that you have the the that for fans who back the Ultimate Edition the first time, basically there's a nominal way for them to get what it is they need if they don't want to back
That's right.
Duo, but you're also offering a new game as well. And
Yeah.
I mean, it seems so far. I mean, I always look to see on Kickstarter, you can see like how many people are following this game, and I can tell you it's a pretty healthy number, Jay. So
Yeah.
that's
Close to
exciting.
4,000. Yeah.
Yeah, close to 4,000. So let's talk about this new game, Duo, because we have
Yeah.
the some of the little tweaks and improvements for the core Discovery game, and I'm sure for a lot of folks that didn't have a chance to get that Ultimate Edition, they're
Yeah.
going to be able to get it now. So let's talk about Duo. What is this new Duo? What is this about?
Yeah. So when I was creating Core Discovery, the core game with Sen, but when I was the one that had to create manually the maps that we were using to test the game at the very beginning. Eventually, we hired someone to make an app for us, so that we could to make the maps for us with all the logic rules. But I had to make them, and I remember it was really challenging. But I remember it was like a fun puzzle. It was like a solo little thing of like, oh, this is fun making this puzzle, and like, oh, I can't fit that there. How can I erase that and try to make it over here? And it was I just had that in my back of my memory. That was a fun creating the maps, and it led me to kind of think: is there a game in that? Is there a game in creating the maps? And we ended up turning it into a 2-player only game in which you are playing cards down together, creating the map instead of exploring the map that exists
Okay.
in core discovery. You're creating a map based on a few common communal rules that you both know, and then behind the screen you each have some extra logic rules behind the screen of how things have to be placed. And so you're trying to give information to your partner not with words but only by how you where you place your cards, and you're trying to say this is next to this, that's my rule, but you can't say anything. It's like kind of like Sky Team where you have limited communication, and you have to try to deduce what your partner's rules are. And eventually, as the grid gets bigger and bigger, you start to learn where the fort is located, and the game ends once all of the terrain exists on the board, all 10. There's 10 different terrain types. All of them exist on the board, and then B, somebody places the fort. Once the fort is placed in the logical rule defining way that you've learned, because it takes a while to learn that rule, then you check every single tiles. Every single tile adhere to all the logic rules, and if so, you win. If anything is wrong, you lose. So by placing that fort, you are thinking, I think everything's good. And it's one of those things in the game. You can't even ask your partner, should we place the fort now? Because obviously you're asking, is everything good? You just gotta place it. Your partner has an opportunity to before going to the final end game state to say like, nope, we're going to discard that fort, put it back, and we're going to pay a penalty price. That penalty price increases as the game progresses, and you're like, what? It's not ready, and now what's wrong? And you have to try to deduce. So it's another game of deduction using the core concept and foundations that makes up core discovery. The game is now in this new game, and so I think Alex from Board Game Co said it best, where he's like, "This is exactly what he wants in a two-player game. Like it's deduction and everything, and it feels like core discovery, but it's a whole new thing."
Oh, cool. So so you're really creating the map is one piece of it. I like the idea that you have your own rules and your partner has rules, but you can't talk about them. So for example, what you just mentioned, if you and I are playing and I'm like, all right, I know my rules. I see the communal rules. I think I'm
Mhm.
ready to place the fort. But if you know that that's wrong because it doesn't adhere to your rule that I don't
Yes.
know about, you
Yes.
can't tell me that. You just
Nope.
have to pull it. We can't talk about it. You just pull it, pay the penalty price,
Yeah.
put down another card to create a different part of the map, and I just have to realize that, "Oh,
Something. Yeah.
this yeah, something is wrong here," so then I have to try and
Yes.
figure out and as we go to try and continue to place the fort, so
It's very
it's a fun
satisfying,
yeah.
clean and fast. And then it has this nice little upgrade system at the end. So when you win the game, whatever character there's 4 characters to choose from, whatever characters you're using, you each get to choose an upgrade card to use in the next game you play. And you put that in a separate section in the box. And when you play, each of the upgrade cards has a sun token icon in it, 1 or 2 sun token icons. And so then you add up how many sun token icons you're using on all the upgrade cards you're using, if just 1 or 2, and you flip over these hazard cards until you get to the total of that number of sun tokens, so 1, 2, or 3, or whatever it is. And those hazards add new challenges and concepts to make the game harder. And so the game level increases the better you get at it. It starts to throw more and more stuff at you.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of, like, replayability, the more you play it, the more complicated the game,
Yeah.
will get, so oh, that's a lot of fun too, and also I like the idea if, like, you're gonna sit down and like, sometimes when we have a game night and Dan will come over, Kevin, like, all, our friends, whoever, um, uh, spouses, some every once in a while, my wife will sit down or, you know, and sometimes, we're trying to plot out what it is we're going to play. And depending on how much time we have. So it is nice for some, if you have, like, you're like, well, I don't know if we have enough time to play, Core of Discovery right now, but we really like it. So you can, Duo's a faster game. We can still kind of get a feel
Mhm.
for it. And that's always nice to have a game that can be a little bit of a faster play, but kind of still put you in that world.
And I also like the fact that a lot of people no, some people say that Core Discovery at its heart is a puzzle that is a solo gamer's dream. Like it's great for solo gamers. And that adding more players, some people say they don't want to play with more players with on Core Discovery, the core game, because it's just a solo puzzle where you're all working the solo puzzle. I would contest that when you add more players in Core Discovery, you also add another element to the puzzle of timing, because you can only use your own character's power and gear on your turn. So you're trying to figure, wait, before your turn is over, use your Morgan Pestle, because we won't have time before it's, so there's an extra element to it. So that's interesting. But I understand that it's a puzzle, whereas Core Discovery Duo is a mandatory only 2-player game. So this is, if you have a partner or a friend or a spouse that you play with all the time, well, this is now even better to play a 2-player version of the game.
Oh, I think that's really cool. Yeah, I like that, the concept of it. Have you guys ever done a second Kickstarter for a game? Is this the first time?
No, we did it for my management, and it was kind of funny.
Oh,
We again,
okay.
we were sold out of the game, and then it was actually because Shut Up and Sit Down put a review out, called it a masterpiece. It was really nice, and the demand was immediately through the roof. And
Yeah.
within 5 days of that review launching, we threw up another Kickstarter. We're like, nah, we're doing it again, and it was
Yeah.
huge. It was huge. It did like 780,000. That was the
Yeah.
second. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, and it is. It is a masterpiece. I sang its praises earlier, but yeah, and that's the only problem with having you on, Jay. Every time you're on, then all I want to do is bug Dan and be like, "Can you bring mine management over? I haven't played in a while." So Dan's going to get a phone call today, or maybe a couple of texts. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
I know it's Valentine's Day as we record this, but what are you doing, Dan? You're going to play mine management?
And we still have our next game actually is Grendel is our next game that is launching. It's I mean the Kickstarter launched, and it's the pledge manager is closing at the end of February, so there's still a chance for people to jump in and grab Grendel, as well as the Creeps. So we have like our next 2 games already announced, with Grendel, which is this asymmetric 1 to 4 player game where everybody's playing a different type of game. Like somebody's playing a bag builder game, somebody's playing a dice allocation game. Everyone's playing a different game, but on the board, it's area control, fighting for control of the different boroughs of New York City. And it's really, really a clever art designed by Senfeng Lim, who helped design Core Discovery, and Alara Cameron designed that game. And then The Creeps is based on a Chris Schweitzer comic. And that's a 2 to 5 player card game of betting on which monsters are going to be the ones invading your town and trying to trap them.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Chris Schweitzer fan.
Same.
Listeners, if I'm sure into being into comics, you're familiar with Chris's work, but he did a great comic with Kyle Starks that I really liked, called The Six Sidekicks of, I think
Yes.
it's Trigger Keaton,
Yeah.
which is it came out in 2022. It's a fantastic comic. I really love it, but yeah,
He said
Chris has done
he's
the
great.
Creeps, like the Night of the Frankenfrogs, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a bunch of these books.
Yes.
So with the game, The Creeps, is it more geared towards being,
Family, yeah.
because I think the comic is family friendly, and
Yeah.
it's a
It's our
2 to
first
5 player
family
card
friendly game,
game.
yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic,
Yeah.
and especially having Chris involved with Chris's artwork.
All new artwork.
It's
The
really,
whole thing is all new artwork, every single aspect of it.
oh, that's fantastic. Oh,
Mhm.
I love that. And just what are, in terms of the card game again, what is the mechanics of it? Like, what's the
Like,
goal?
you have these monster cards that are dual monsters, a different monster on each side of the monster, and on your turn, you have to assign it to one of the 8 monster kind of clipboards that you're studying. And the monsters at the end of a round that had the 4 monsters that have the most cards assigned to them are the only ones that are going to score. And you score based on what's left in your hand. So it's one of those games where I want to play this to help this monster score, but I also want to keep it in my hand because I want it to score it. And so you're trying to make sure both sides of all of your cards left in your hand at the end of a round are scoring. And so it becomes this interesting game of alliances of like, are you going to help me out with this one and make this one score? And like, I'll help you over here. Like, it's an interesting, because you don't own them up here. They're just all communal. And the shift, the whatever ones are the top 4 kind of shifts throughout the game of like, now this one is one of the top 4. And then on top of that, you have these trap cards that you can play that give you chaos and add some fun shenanigans to the game.
Oh, nice. Is there a particular age range? Like,
8, we say 8 and up for that one.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Oh, that's great.
But
Yeah.
it is thinkier than the art would make you think it is.
There's
'Cause
nothing wrong with that. I love
yeah,
that. That's great.
yeah.
um, uh, do you doing all the things that you do for off the page games, like, do you still get a chance to play for fun, or you just like immersed in board games and
Yeah,
you
I
do
mean,
something else to pass the time if you have any free time?
playtesting games, even other people's games, to me is even more fun than playing games because I still get the fun of playing a game, but I'm also using the other side of my brain and analyzing and trying to dissect games and figure out problems. So I get a lot of fun in playtesting games because of that. And so it's rare that I actually get to play real games, except for with my 2 kids, but then we're playing, Cozy Stickerville or something, which is great. Fun, more family type games with my, different versions of Uno and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we're my youngest Penny and I, she's 8, and yeah, she's sitting down here in the basement while I'm recording this, but we play quite a bit of Uno.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some other games that we like to play. Um,
I recommend Cozy
but yeah,
Stickerville. It's a newish game, and it's a very, like, I don't know, like, you're creating, this, like, village or something, and you put stickers on the board every time then this comes with, like, over, I don't know, 200 stickers or something, and so you play it 10 times, and then you flip the board over and play it 10 more times, and we tore through that, and it's one of these games that doesn't really have an objective. You're just trying to create a happy town with happy people and solve problems, and it's just a nice, and it had really good, my boys who are 9 were really encouraged to read, and that's something they're challenged with right now is reading, so they wanted to read the next card, and they would so it was everything about the game was just a great hit for that age group and me and our family.
oh, awesome. Well, that's a good recommendation, Jay. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with it, so
And for gamers, they might not like it because it's like, "Well, what am I doing? Like, what's the goal here?" But it's like a great
yeah.
story, choose your own adventure type, just a feeling of like, all these guys, we gotta do something. What do you wanna do?" Like, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, cool. No, I like that. You so the Kickstarter for Grendel already happened, and
Yeah.
is there going to be a Kickstarter for the Creeps or
So what we do with the creeps is in the pledge manager, after a Kickstarter finishes up, there's a thing called a pledge manager where people go on and finalize their pledge, pay for shipping stuff. But it's also called a late pledge where people who missed it can come and get it. That's when
sure?
we announce the creeps. Say, hey, guess what? Our new game's here. You can get it if you got Grendel. The shipping for creeps is free.
Okay, so is it available as an add-on?
Yes, or if you didn't
Okay.
get Grendel, you can get creeps just on its own if you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, cool. Yeah. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Chris's artwork, and it
I
sounds like
know.
a really fun game. I love the family friendly aspect of it. Is there anything else that you guys are working on that you can talk about?
Yes, of lots of stuff that we can talk about. Oh, I see. I was gonna say yes up until you said that we can talk about. We're working on like 3-ish properties that they're not like they're verbally agreed upon, but not contractually. So I don't want to mention them in case because they're not. Something might happen where we're like, oh, now we can't do it because Netflix wants to make a show about
Sure.
it or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
then we are working on how much can I say? Uh, it's interesting. We're working on another title in which it didn't have a comic book for this game that we wanted to do. And so we hired Chris Schweitzer to write a comic about it.
Oh,
And we got a different
okay.
artist. As much as I like Chris's art, we got it in the Creeps. And so this is a new comic that he's writing for us. So yeah, that's
That's fantastic. Oh, well, I can't wait. So listeners, make sure you're following Off the Page Games for whenever more details about that are announced. I'll have links in the show notes, like I said, so you can follow them on social media because I'm sure when they're ready to talk about it, they will. And especially if we're getting a new Chris Schweitzer written comic book, that
yeah,
sounds great. I love that. And
yeah.
yeah, uh, how's the response been? Since the Kickstarter and it's been out in how's the response been to people, after the Kickstarter of Grendel? I mean, has that shipped yet?
No, it's in late pledge right now, right? It's finished in late pledge until the end of February.
Okay.
So We were trying to get all the art files in before Chinese New Year to the manufacturer, but we weren't able to. There's so much to it. Like
Okay.
it's I don't know if people can really understand how much there is to this game. Like it's a beast of a game in a good way. Like there's so much solo content. Like there's 4 factions, so you can play as any faction against any other faction as the Atama, like the automated kind of solo player. And so if you can play against the mob, and the mob solo player operates like the mob does in the game with dice. And so there's a whole system to run the automated player of a solo player of the mob, but you can play as Grendel versus the mob, and that feels different as than if you played as Argent versus the mob or the police
Right.
versus the mob. And then there's Grendel as a solo player, and that uses bag pulling, and so each one was designed separately, and so much testing on that had to be done. And then of course there's an expansion called the Press, which is a 5th faction. And not only does that press now have to work in all those solo modes, the press have a solo mode. And so you can play any faction against the press's solo mode. And they use polyominoes to create newspaper pages. Like everything about it is so cool. And like Merchant Cove was a game that had this, like, every player playing a different kind of game, like a different type of game. And then, but we're all, and so a lot of people compare it to that, I'm sure, when it comes out. But I think this one, as far as like, ease of use, like the game you're playing, the mini game or whatever you're playing, a mechanic, is very straightforward and simple. It's not overly complicated. And on the board, it's not like Root, where it's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I don't even know what you're doing. Because I can just try to understand my own game. Not knocking Root in any way, because obviously that's a hugely popular game. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
game. But it's the learning curve is very steep on that one, where I'm hoping and thinking that the learning curve for Grendel's is
Yeah.
not steep. People be able to get in and
Yeah.
like, oh, roll dice and assign them and do the thing. It's very straightforward. It's how they interact on the board and how you jostle for position and control.
Yeah, I don't know if at PAX Unplugged if you had like any part of it that you were demoing, but I know that I've seen like a digital version of it, like to just get a sense of it that you had
TTS or
shown.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, that you had showed Dan and I before, and it's just it's just it's like so much fun. Like I mean the the whole concept, the design of it, and just the whole Grendel factor, which is such a fantastic, comic book.
Yeah.
So I I'm I'm very excited to see once it is out there in the world, what the
Yeah.
response is, because I think it's going to be really great.
Ugh,
So
and that out of unbelievably, Matt Wagner emailed me out of the blue. It's like, hey, can you make a game? I saw my management Harrow County. Can you make a Grendel game? I'm like, what? Yes,
yeah,
please.
yeah,
Unbelievable.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, Jay, is there anything else you want listeners to know about other than the Kickstarter for the Core of Discovery is going to launch February 17th? So I'm going to try and get this episode out shortly thereafter. So the
Perfect.
listeners, if you're listening to this within the first week or 2 or 3, probably that this
No, it's only
episode
a
comes
10-day
out.
campaign.
Oh, really? You're just doing
Yeah.
a 10-day?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to get this out then as soon as possible
Thank
so
you.
that when you're listening to this, you're going to be able to click on that link and you're going to be able to go and back the campaign. And yeah, I highly encourage you, especially if you're listening to this podcast, because of the comic aspect of it.
Yeah.
If I've said before, well, when I've mentioned Dan or whenever I talk about board games, when it comes up with any of my guests, if you haven't played board games in a while, it's a totally different world out there. Going to PAX Unplugged. There's so many different games, so many different mechanics, and I mean, I think anyone that plays board games now always jokes about like really in-depth rule books and how there can be like a lot, but I've played a lot of games in the past few years, some with complicated rules, but there are very few, I'd say less than 5, where I just felt like, the rules were a lot.
Mm.
Usually once you get in and you start playing, I think most modern board games, like they click pretty quickly. And um, Mind Management, Harrow County, and Core of Discovery. I know you said you did tweak the rule book on Core of Discovery, but if you look at the rule book and you're like, oh, this seems daunting, it's not. They are so much fun. They are so easy to pick up. They are one of those games that once you get into it and once you start playing, if you're the type of person that feels like that you don't want to play like a real rule heavy game, don't be intimidated by the size of any of these rule books. They are some of the most fun I have ever had. And yeah,
Thank you.
really check out Core Discovery.
Yeah.
Really great game. And yeah, especially is the Creeps going to be available as an add-on to this?
That's a good question. Maybe, because what's happening is these might actually deliver at the same time, because we could probably, so they might. That's interesting. We might add that to the late pledge for this as well. That's a good idea. Never thought about that. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's only because I don't have it and I want to get it. So
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I was. All right. Well, Jay, thank you so much. I know you're on the West Coast, so this is you're starting your Saturday having to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, and yeah, links to the
Have a
show
good one.
notes to everything. Core of Discovery.
Thank you.
Take care, listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, if you're not a board game fan, but you're going to start playing, let me know what it is you're playing. I'd love to talk about board games as well as comics. All right, so thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.